Ready?
Yeah.
All right, we ready. I love for y'all brothers and sisters. Thank you again for live broadcast number 2 up in here at the Mowa Temple. Thank you all for tuning in, taking the time out to check out what we're talking about today. Today is the conclusion, the part 2 of the Manhood series. And today what we're going to be talking about is the language of man. Yesterday, we kind of gave a framework of what manhood is or what manhood can be from my humble perspective. We said at the beginning that as a man, just listen to what it is that I have to say. Then as a man, reflect and see if any of these things are applicable to you. If not, by all means, discard it and continue your journey. So what we're going to talk about more so today is how to get the most out of your journey. You get the most out of your journey, believe it or not, but it's going to be through language. Why? We always talk about language. We always say how language is important. And we always say how our words have power. What we're going to talk about today is how and why they have power. And so when you are able to understand the power and of language itself for yourself, then you'll be able to fully live life in a full way through your true perception of the world. So, let's get into it with a few facts, man. An interesting fact is that your brain, your eyesight, captures 1 billion bits worth of information per second. Per second, there's 1 billion bits of information that's being thrown at you. But there are only 1 million cells in your eyes to catch those bits of information. I always forget the name of it, so I brought it with me. The retinal ganglion cells. There's 1 billion bits of information, but yet there's only 1 million retinal ganglion cells to eat those bits of information so it can be interpreted as your brain as seeing. So what does that mean? That there's 1 billion bits of information that's being shot at you per second, but you only have 1 million sensors in your eyes to absorb that information for it to be interpreted by your brain so you can call that seeing. So that means you have to be very aware of what it is that you see. There's 1 billion bits of information, but you're only able to receive 1 million of those. So the perception that you have of yourself and of your environment is what's going to hold real estate of that 1 million, of those 1 million sensors in your eyes, that's going to receive the potential 1 billion bits of information per second that you're going to translate. So this is why language is important. This is why language is important, because the language that you use will dictate what part of that 1 billion bits per second you're going to be able to see and receive and interpret. If you only have the vocabulary of someone who is defeated, you will only receive 1 million bits per second of victimhood, 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 victimhood. But there's 1 billion bits per second that's being sent to you. But your perception is only going to allow you to see victimhood, victimhood, victimhood if victimhood is at the forefront of your mind. If victimhood is the translator, the head translator of your mind, that's all you're going to see. So let's break down language a little more. God created everything with his words. Both the Bible and the Quran says this. God said it was, and it was. They both agree on that. But then it says that we're made in the image and the likeness of God. So when we are acting in and of our right minds, we can then consciously create according to our language. But here's the kicker of it. Us being in the likeness in the image of God, we do this anyway, even if we're not aware of it. And when we're not aware of it, when we're unconsciously creating, we're still creating. So the whole purpose of this lesson is to help you be aware of the creation that you're doing. And you can only be aware of the creation that you're doing if you're aware of the tools that you're using. Language. And language is more than like a country signifier. Language is how you interpret everything and anything around you. See, this is why it was important that when our ancestors was brought over to slavery, the first thing that the colonizers did was strip our ancestors of our language. They didn't do that just to be jerks, just to be evil. They did that because through language, you're able to see. KRS-One once said that you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. And the more words your brain has, the more things you're able to see. But if we were disconnected from the language that we had in our hearts to describe the world around us, we no longer have the means to describe the things around us. Not only did they strip us from our own language, they disallowed us from even learning how to read in the language of the strange land that we was into. So not only do we not have our original language, it was punishable by death if we got caught trying to read or write over here. So we're left with no means of definition, but we have to try to pull out language from the environment around us, but that environment around us says that we're a slave, we're boy, we're nigga, we're wench, we're slave, we're less than a human being, 3/5 of a human being. And if that's all we have in our environment to pull towards ourselves, then we'll start defining ourselves by the words that we can try to pick little by little. So this is why our ancestors like Frederick Douglass said, once you learn how to read, you are forever free. You are forever free when you know how to read, because when you know how to read, you now are able to interpret these scratchings for yourself and then apply it to your life in a way that you might not have before. You are now able to articulate the environment around yourself. You are now able to articulate your own self because now you have a vocabulary to do so. Before you did, you had to rely on somebody else's vocabulary. And in many ways and in many cases, then as it is now, the people who control the vocabulary don't have your best interest at mind. So if they don't have your best interest in mind, they will say that you are X, Y, and Z. And if you happen to believe you are X, Y, and Z, you will then become X, Y, and Z, because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Language is more than just a communicator. More than me just talking to you. Language is also a transmitter of culture. So this is how we take our power back. It is true. We were separated from our land that was then separated from our culture and our language. And we had to, by necessity, learn this language over here that is called English. We can keep the communication side of English, but what we must do is recreate the culture side of this language that they call English. If we continue to use it as a communicator and a translator of culture, if we're translating the English culture in our communications, we'll forever be enslaved to their perception of the language that they use. But we can use these same etchings, these same scratchings, but have a culture of self-creation. Use that self-creation culture with the communicator that we had to learn while we was over here, but use it towards our purpose and not theirs. Does that make sense? So let's go deep. We brought out the board today. All right. This right here is going to break down exactly how language has power and why language has power. So I'm trying to get you right over here. All right, so when we think about language, we have two different parts of language. The signifier and the signified. These are the two parts of language. The signifier and the signified. What the signifier is words like any word, really. Tree. What is being signified when we say TREE is that plant that we see outside with the leaves and birds live in and have their nests. The signified is what picture it is that comes in our mind when we see these signifiers, this thing that we call a TREE. When we see TREE, our mind sees the tree, that thing out there that we call a tree. But when we want to speak in truth, this thing that we picture in our mind is not a TREE. TREE is just so happens what we call that. And since we speak the language and the cultural, since we speak the language of English, in the most basic terms, we understand as English speakers that TREE will equal that thing out there. Now, if we spoke in a different language, they would have a different signifier. I think in Spanish, forgive me if I'm incorrect, but I think it's arbol. I believe. But whatever the case may be, even if I'm wrong, say I made this up in a whole different language, but ARBOL in this language would also signify that thing out there that we're calling a tree. This is why what we call this, isn't this, because somebody else who speaks another language sees that exact same thing and calls it this. So the signifier is mainly just a compass for you to try to understand physical reality. But physical reality isn't bound by what it is that we call it. Let's go deeper. Can you pass me that roll? Let's go deeper. When our people were enslaved, the colonizer took control of the signifier and signified in our own minds. This is how we was kept enslaved. When we saw the word God, going to say this is English from a white supremacist perspective. I'm going to just put WS. When we saw the word God from a white supremacist perspective, God didn't mean Olodumare. It didn't mean Yahweh. It didn't mean Allah. It didn't even mean Yeshua. God meant white. In the English, that is both the communicator and the carrier of a culture. This culture being white supremacy. This was the culture and the communicator that was placed upon our ancestors. When they say we need to put the fear of God in them, they was not talking about God. They was talking about themselves. So when that whip came and told them, and they were saying that they was putting the fear of God in them, when they saw God, G-O-D, that signifier, what to be signified in their mind is anything white. This is why, again, how the brothers say, this is why Jesus was painted white. This is why, what's the brother? Muhammad Ali was talking about the angel food cake is white and everything like that. This is why all that's the case. English under the white supremacist culture, God equaled white. Black equaled slave, nigga, with the ER, wench, 3/5 of a human being. This is what black meant. Black meant in the white supremacist English meant slave, nigger, wench, 3/5 of a human being. Not even a full human being. Under this English that was pounded in our ancestors' minds. White we already said that God equaled white, right? But white in its own self had its own definition in the white supremacist English. White is where freedom was. White is where freedom was. Black people or black didn't have the freedom that white did. Therefore, if a black person who was infested with white supremacist English wanted freedom, they felt that they must not be themselves, which themselves is being signified as slave, nigger, wench, 3/5 of a human being. They must be and act white because white in that mind, in that translating system equals freedom. W-H-I-T-E. That was the signifier. In the mind, it signified freedom. So if I'm not this right here, I can't get freedom because I'm this right here. And for me to get here, I must get what this is. Does that make sense? So this is why Frederick Douglass said that when you learn how to read, you will forever be free. You will forever be free because when you learn how to read for yourself, you might still speak what is called English as the communicator. But the culture now is whatever you interpret it as. We call that Mowa. Mowa means I am. So now, we can then look at these exact same words. We can look at these exact same words in any other word that we choose and come up with a different signifier to the same signifier. So when I say God, I see, that's the so now when I see God, G-O-D, my signified is no longer white, unless I choose it to be, but my signifier is Olo Du Mari. Also acceptable in my book, Yahweh, Allah, so on and so forth, Krishna, nature. So when I see these scratchings, a G, a O, a D, in my mind, what is being signified is not what is being signified by white supremacist English. What's being signified in my mind when I see G-O-D is Olodumare, Yahweh, Allah, Krishna, nature. Even though it has the same scratchings, the same etchings, these things that we call letters. But what's being interpreted in my mind, in my culture of Mowa, is Olodumare, Yahweh, Allah, Krishna, nature. When I see black, I don't see slave, nigga, wench, 3/5 of a human being. I see the universe. This is the difference between language. In the white supremacist language, in the white supremacist English, they say black, B-L-A-C-K. They beat it into you, saying that you are black. And black in all white supremacist English is you being a slave, nigger, wench, 3/5 of a human being. But the moment that we became literate, the moment that we became to be able to read for ourselves, even in this foreign language, our interpretation is I am. So when we see G-O-D, we're not seeing white. When we see G-O-D, we see Olodumare, Yahweh, Allah, Krishna, nature, whatever. This is what the intelligence that our ancestors had from jump. They knew that G-O-D did not equal white. This white supremacist English, that was what was suppressed upon the minds and the psyches of our ancestors. They had to beat this into them, but this is their natural state. This is their natural state. This is what was suppressed upon them. This did not sever this. This covered this. This was brought upon them by the means of the whip and trauma. The whip came with this, and they would whip the strong male in front of the woman. So the woman would then teach their children, God is white. Black is, this is where you are. This is your circumscribed roles in society, because they don't want that same fate that happened to their father to happen to them. So that's how this was passed down. So this is why I say, for our brothers and sisters who are still infected by this, at least remember their humanity. Remember how we got to this point in the first place. And then also remember that this is who we truly are. And if there was more people who stood upon this and allowed this light to shine, this darkness would flee. Because we know the truth. We are the truth. We are made of the truth. But we have been covered with this. Again, this is why Frederick Douglass says, the moment you learn how to read is the moment you're free. Because the debate is always this. I quote from the Bible. I quote from the Quran. But many of our brothers and sisters off of the strength of that would say that I'm crazy. But this is what you don't understand. The same Bible that was used by the colonials was the same Bible that was used by Nat Turner. The same Bible that was used by the colonialists was the same Bible that was used by Nat Turner. How can that be the case? How can that be? How can that be the case that the same Bible that Nat Turner used for revolution is the same tool that the white supremacists used to put us into slavery? Because they were speaking a white supremacist English. Nat Turner was speaking a Nat Turner English. When he saw, and when our ancestors saw and was able to read the stories of the Israelites, when they was enslaved, they in their intelligent minds saw themselves in the Israelites. Shout out to the Hebrew Israelites. They saw themselves in the Israelites, so then they was able to draw that faith from this foreign language called English to form that connection of God that they already had. They didn't have Olodumare, Yahweh, Ale, Krishna, and nature no more, but they had this scratching called G-O-D. But G-O-D pointed towards who they know as, innately as, Olodumare, Yahweh, Allah, whomever. Even if they did use this word, said J-E-S-U-S. Now, of course, we know now there's no J in the Hebrew and all that good stuff and so on and so forth, but our ancestors had to use what was ahead of them right then and there. So they used J-E-S-U-S, and in their mind, they saw that as a savior. While this J-E-S-U-S, again, pointed to themselves. I'll say point to themselves and in parentheses put savior. Because if you are under the white supremacist English, Jesus then means savior, but a white savior. J-E-S-U-S over here meant a savior as well, but it meant us. The signifier and the signified. The etchings that you use to describe the picture that's within it. Now the question is now to ask, since we're getting a little idea of what language and all that good stuff is, who are you? I don't know if you can see it, but I put Y-O-U right here. Who are you? This Y-O-U, these are just scratcher letters. We call these things letters. But they don't mean anything unless they have something that they're pointing to in your mind. So when you look at you in the mirror, what do you see? When you say your name, When I say my name. What picture comes to mind when Mowa is being said? This exercise can work for me and it can work for you. Because when you see Mowa, you can be like, oh Lord, here comes this. But when I see myself, I'm cool with me. You know? So the question is, who are you? What picture comes to mind when you think of you? That same voice that said, I am seeing my future, what sight does that see when you see yourself? And therein lies freedom or your captivity. Because for you to have your own image of yourself, you must control your English. You must have a culture that controls your English. Some people have a Hebrew Israelite culture. It's cool. Some people have a Christian culture. Some people have an atheist culture, but might be humanist. Some might have whatever. That's fine. Do you. But what is the picture that you see when you see yourself? But if you keep the white supremacist English about yourself, you will see yourself as how they see you. If you stay under the language of the white supremacist, you will forever be in the cycle that most people are right now. Being mad because white people have said something nasty about you. Right? Look at all this stuff that's going on online right now. You should allow us to be free. You should it gets silly once you understand it. Especially with these viral things. They call it viral on purpose, man. They're a virus. These viral things that say, for example, we're talking about manhood, right? That man equals trash. Whose culture is this? Whose culture is this that says that man is trash? And if man is trash, how do they not become trash anymore? Just by making articles about it? Because when we see these articles that talk about men are trash, and I've said it to these brothers directly, where are your solutions? So we can now change the signifier of M-A-N, which you say that I am, and change that signifier from trash to protector. Now, I will agree with you. If you are under the white supremacist language system, then you might very well be right that man, black, man is trash. and if you live your life based off of white supremacist standards, then I might very well agree with you that black man is trash. Because he is living off of something he's literally living outside of his own nature. He's literally living outside of his own culture. But when a man sees that man and knows that that man isn't trash, so when a Mowa man comes across a man who is living in white supremacy, both of the signifiers, BLACKMAN, we have the same etchings, but he sees himself based off of the white supremacist, folk Paul feminist language, but I see him through a lens of I am. So I said, my brother, I see you as free. Because I, as a BLACKMAN, am also FREE. And then what does freedom mean? Freedom, or free, the ability to create oneself. So when the Mowa man runs into the man that has white supremacy, faux pas feminism as their language, that says black men are trash, and he's living out in a trashy way, because not only is it saying that he's trash, if he believes it, he's going to live in a trashy way. That's why it's so damaging to just say these things without having any kind of form of solution. When you come across a man, a Mowa man, who has that same etchings, BLACKMAN, I am free. I'm that black man that is free. Why am I free? Because I have that ability to create myself. You see me, a black man with the same etchings. You see me, we look similar. But you say, wait a minute, he's not acting how I'm acting. He's not seeing how I'm seeing. He's seeing and moving and acting and living in a whole different way. Brother, it's something different about you. I can't put my finger on it. Because I remember that used to happen like at church. You remember when you first get saved? You know what I'm talking about, right? I remember it like it was yesterday. It's like the moment you give your life to Christ and you go to work or school the next day, they're like, it's something different about you. I just can't put my finger on it. They be like, it's the God in me. Hey, it's the God in me. But word, this is what it is. Because that same person that you might have known as CHRIS isn't who I was here. Now, CHRIS is who I am here. Is this making sense?
Perfect sense.
So, brothers and sisters, peep the game that the media be doing. Because I remember everybody went crazy when this got brought up. Alternative facts. Y'all remember alternative facts? They was going all crazy. They're like, alternative facts are just lies. But no, it isn't. They understand this science. So if white supremacists' alternative facts is whatever, what is your alternative facts to what they're saying? If they say black is worthless, what is your alternative fact?
Because the alternative fact in that matter would just be what that somebody basically alternative fact is the perception.
Exactly.
You can't tell me what my fact is because I can make it a fact.
Exactly. Who are you to tell me what my facts are right or wrong? Right. If you want to live by the white supremacist alternative facts, by all means do that. But we must have our own alternative facts to combat their alternative facts. They say black is worthy of death. I say I disagree.
Right. That's your alternative fact.
That's my alternative fact.
Right.
My alternative fact might be that the black man is God. Am I more correct or incorrect from someone else because that someone else is of a different culture? No. Live your truth. Live your truth. And the wonderful thing about your truth is nobody has to agree with you. You must be what it is that you say that you are. Be it. So if we say, I'm a man. I'm a man, God damn it. And if man to you means provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, creator. This is what man means to me. So when I say I'm a man, English, Mowa. In Mowa English, I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, creator. That's what man, and thus manhood, means. So if you say that you are a man and you're a man, but you're not upholding these principles, you cannot be of the Mowa culture. Right? Because these are things that we are and or working towards. Because we all have fallen. But if these are the things that you're building upon yourself, then by definition you are a Mowa man. But if you do not uphold these principles, that's fine. You are still a man. Just not a Mowa one.
You're just your other alternative fact.
You have an alternative fact. Now, if I say that I'm a man, M-A-N, and man to Mowa means provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, creator, and I run into another man, that's a brother of the Nation of Islam, and they say that I'm a man. And when they say man, they have the exact same principles. I can get along with this man right here. Even though his culture is different from my culture, But when we both say M-A-N, we both understand that we're talking about a provider, a protector, a father, a brother, a friend, a supporter, a creator. So when I talk to a man from the Nation of Islam, I know that I'm talking to a man that's a provider, a protector, a father, a brother, a friend, a supporter, a creator. We can both co-create in this thing called manhood. As we go out and preach our respective gospels according to our respective cultures. And they be like, you know what, Mowa, I feel you, but I don't feel you. I said, all right, well, holla at my brother Muhammad. He might have in his culture a way to further enhance your manhood. I know if I pass you to my brother Muhammad, the man that he's going to make you is a provider, protector, a father, a brother, a friend, a supporter, a creator. It's all good if that's the culture that you choose. Because manhood in that culture is the same thing as manhood in my culture. This is how communities then become tribes and nations. Because we have the same idea of what manhood is. You see? Now if we come across to another man and some other culture, just put a question mark, and man meant a liar, stop right there. And a man meant a liar, that brother or that man would not be able to coexist with the Mowa, NOI, Christian, whatever, whoever, cultures that sees man as provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, creator. Because this man of this culture is a liar. So I can't mess with the man of this culture because his principles of manhood is being a liar. Our principles, protector, provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, creator. Theirs is of a liar. Now, this brother, this man, can become one of these, and this may become one of these as well. We can either elevate this man into this manhood, and like, all right, this liar comes to me and says, I want to be a part of your culture. Well, sir, you know, let's say this man is a liar, but he's also a plumber as his occupation, right? Still, though, I don't want a man that's a liar and a plumber. I don't want my plumber to be a liar man, my lying man ass plumber. Right? So if you want to be a part of our culture, those under this umbrella, it can be African, it can be American, whomever those in these cultures that say that man is provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, creator, you can be a part of these culture if you toss away the liar, become a provider, protector, father, brother, friend, creator, and supporter. But if you stay a liar, even you being a great plumber, we can't have you here because this is our principles of trust. These are our principles of trust. We don't trust you as a man if you're not this, and you currently are that. So, we'll keep your resume on file. But we need to find a plumber that's a man that upholds our principles. That's a creator, supporter, friend, brother, father, protector, and provider. Now, if we can't find a plumber within my own culture at this particular time, I might have to hit up my Nation of Islam brother Hey, man, do you know a plumber? Yeah, man, I'll let you holler at my man Sharif. Sharif is, a part of my culture, so I know that he's a man that's a provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, and creator. So I know he wouldn't cheat me because a man is not a cheater. A man is not a liar. A man is not a deceiver. So I can have him in my house with my wife as I'm out at work to do his plumbing, and I ain't got to worry about anything because as a man, I know his character. But if you don't have this character, I can't respect you as a man. So what we need to do as brothers, no matter what your thing is, we need to have commonalities when it comes to certain things. When it comes to manhood, you must be provider, protector, father, brother, friend, supporter, creator. I can't respect you as a man if you're not at very least these things and working to strengthen each of these things. Because we all go through stuff sometimes. Sometimes it might be a little rough to provide, but you're still going out there and working. If you're still going out there and working, I can respect that as a man. Even if you're making $7.25 an hour, but you going out there every day to do what you can to provide for your family, I can respect that as a man. Matter of fact, if I'm a man that makes $1 million a year, I will help that man that makes $7.25 per hour because as a man, I see him providing, protecting a father, a brother, a friend, a supporter, and a creator. I'm a man too. I'm just happen to be in a better financial position than you are at the moment. So you as a man, I will help a fellow man come up because we need more men in great financial positions that are providers, protectors, fathers, brothers, friends, supporters, and creators. What we have right now are not these. What we have right now in places of power are not men. We have cowards. We have gossipers. We have men who's on the radio all day that think it's dope to diss his baby mother. We got homeboys out here right now who's doing petty stuff to their baby mother, not understanding that it is hurting your child. I can't respect that as a man. But if you want to become a man, holler at a man and we'll make you a man. This is the man that the woman will submit to willingly. Tell me I'm lying. Am I preaching?
You preaching it.
A woman has no problem submitting to a man that is a provider, a protector, a father, a brother, a friend, a supporter, and a creator. Because woman can trust a man that does these things. But if a man is not doing these things, how can I trust you to be the man, to be the head of the household if you can't hold on to these things, if you're not even trying? Because trying will bring forth opportunities. If you're trying to do these things sincerely, the universe will pull things to your resources for you so that you can bring these things to pass. Ask me how I know. I was never forsaken. Those times I thought I was done for, I was never forsaken. Because there's a brother who at very least had some of these qualities, saw that another man was in a bind. He said, man, but this brother was a good friend. And I needed a friend at the time. So let me help this man out there as a friend. The language of manhood. The language of being a man. You have to define not only what man is, once you define what this M is, you're free. This A. Why do we call it an A? What's an A? It's a... Why... This is how you make language work for you. So now when you see yourself your name here. So now when you see yourself, man, now when you see your name, when I see Mowa, in my mind I see a provider, a protector, a father, a brother, a friend, a supporter, a creator. And when you see this for yourself, now I will walk that out. Don't give a damn what someone under the white supremacist I don't give a damn what a white supremacist got to say. I don't care what these faux pas feminists got to say. Notice I say faux pas. The real ones I respect. I don't care what these simp English brothers are trying to say. Anything that's really outside of my culture, I don't care what they say. The only time I even converse with them is on the communication side. So on the top is the communicator. And the bottom is the culture. So language equals communicator over your culture. And this can fit for anybody. You can speak Yoruba and still carry a racist, white supremacist English culture. You can speak English and have a Mowa culture. You can speak French and have a Nation of Islam culture as your language. Your communicator is what you was born with or what you learned along the way. But your culture is how you perceive it. Does this make sense? See what I'm saying? So when you control your language, when you control the signifier that points to the signifier, you then create the image in your mind. I'm going to go over it one more time, real briefly, just to drive it home. The question to ask yourself now is when you see the words, or when you see the letters G-O-D, what picture comes to mind? This is not a matter of right or wrong, brothers and sisters. Whatever your culture is, and however you communicate it, that will be your language. So when you see the letters G-O-D, what picture comes to mind? For us, Olodumare. And then we can also go to what does Olodumare mean to us? So on and so forth, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. When you see words like black, what does that word mean to you in your culture? When you see white, what does that word mean to you in your culture? When you see love, what picture comes to mind when you see love? See, this is a whole nother subject right here. Because a lot of us don't really know what love is. Because when we think of love, it might be the only thing we might see is sex. We say that love is sex or sex is love. But when you apply this, does it give you the desired outcome that you're looking for? If you say that love is sex and it does give you that desired outcome, by all means, do your thing. But if you say love equals sex and you're having a ton of sex, but it's not bringing the love that you know is true within your heart, you might need to study some other cultures and see what love means to them. Because when you study another culture and found out that love is patience. When you find out through that other culture that love equals patience, you might be like, you know what? Maybe I need to change the way I see L-O-V-E. If I change the way that I see L-O-V-E to equal not just sex, but patience, kindness, forgiveness. Now I see love in a totally different way than I did before. Because sometimes the culture that we see is based upon the traumas that we've been through. So if English is your communicator, but your culture comes from the trauma that you had when you got raped, that will then in turn will be your language. God might not be all Olodumare no more. It might be doesn't exist. N-A. If it was a black person who raped you, that person, now black might mean evil. Or if it was a black man that did it, now black man might mean evil and rapist. But if it was a white man that didn't do it, now that might be seen as what is good now. That might be seen what is safe. That might be seen what is trustworthy. Solely due to the culture that you dealt with that was affected by trauma. That experience that you had. A culture is nothing but experiences. So to be able to overcome the trauma that you've dealt with, by all means, do therapy and all that good stuff if you need it. But what it's going to boil down to is being able to see the things now through a different lens. You no longer see it as a victim. You'll be able to see again God again. If you no longer see yourself through the experience that you dealt with, you might now be able to see love as patience, kindness, and forgiveness instead of a fraud or something to be afraid of. Because I gave up that culture that's defining me. Same thing goes with depression. I'm not telling y'all stuff I read. I'm telling you stuff that I've been through. When I lived my life as a depressed brother, I had arguments with God. It's not that I didn't believe that God exists. I felt that God was picking on me. I felt like Job. It's like, yo, why are you gambling my life? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to live manhood as protector, provider, and all that good stuff. But I'm going through all this stuff, but then I realized that my depression came from when my father died when I was 11 years old. So when I had that loss, I felt that was a loss of my own manhood because my example of manhood is gone. So I had to learn through my environment around me, and the environment around me wasn't the most positive in the world. I mean, at home, my mother and my sister did the best that they could. But when I go out into America, when I go out into high school, where the things of worthiness might not necessarily agree with what I know is within my soul, then I start feeling like what Cardi B said, you even got me tripping. You got me looking in the mirror different, thinking I'm flawed because you're inconsistent. That's exactly what she's talking about right here. That experience that she went through, he said, man, now you got me thinking that I'm messed up. Now I'm looking at myself through a lens of being cheated on. So if you're able to control the culture in which you communicate, you will then become free because the language is the fuel in which you see. You see based off of your vocabulary. Your vocabulary, G-O-D, is now not N-A, is ever present. When I overcame my depression, I saw God as ever present. Now, looking at it now, he was even ever present when I was going through my depression. Controlling your language is the way that you can control your perception. And when you control your perception, you control the way that you see things. And when you control the way that you see things, you will realize then that you are truly free. And then and only then will you be able to see it. Every revolution did not start off with the gun. It started off with them seeing themselves as free. Because there was a revolution, and every revolution happens is that a class thinks that they're superior to another class. That lower class would be like, hold up, I'm not inferior to you. I am free. And now me moving as a free man, I am going to do ... I'm either going to boycott, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, Whatever your I am is, whatever your I am culture is, that's what you're going to infuse yourself with. That's going to be your language, that's going to be your perception of yourself, and then that's what you're going to use to walk out and do whatever it is into the world. But if you give your power of language over to people who do not have your best interests at heart, you will forever be enslaved to whatever their language is about you. Ashe? I think this is a good stopping point. I thank everybody for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for your time. Thank y'all for the shares. Thank you for the comments. These will be posted on my website soon, www.mowatemple.com. You can also follow me on HRH Mowa Oludumare, this page right here, Mowa Oludumare. Instagram, Mowa_Oludumare. And let's build some more, man. I'm all for it. And I'm not sure when the next lecture will be, but stay tuned, because I'm always writing, always thinking, always coming up with something else. With the almighty help of Oludumare himself and my ancestors. I'm thankful. I'm thankful to God. I'm thankful to my ancestors, My ancestors here, that was born and raised right here in America, because they understood all of this. They understood that once you learn how to read and write, you are forever free. And to think, to even do any of this, to come up with this W right here, just this W, we would have died for it. We would have been killed for learning how to read for ourselves. So I'm thankful to those ancestors, because those ancestors ended up developing the same people who became inventors and scientists, great thinkers, great writers, great poets, great musicians, great fathers, sharecroppers. That's the blood that runs through my veins. And those are the people who are honored first. 400 years of them. Thank y'all for listening.